The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And every day at this time, OBMMI, they provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual locked rates with consumers across 35% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. They do not tell us points paid, points received, or APR. They tell us the number do you need to put in your mortgage calculator. Don't have one? RonIsMyLender.com. RonIsMyLender.com. Put that number in the mortgage calculator, and it tells you exactly what your payments are going to be, principal and interest, for the period of time of that loan. Let's take a look and see what the numbers were yesterday. That's the latest data available. Conventional loans up 6.995. Jumbo loans up 7.215. FHA loans up 6.762. USDA loans, those were the only ones that were down, 6.667. Rural areas, generally no down payment. VA loans, those were up 6.498. So it was a green day on the markets yesterday, and all of them going in the wrong direction. If you are a fan of getting low interest rates, what's going on today? I'm glad you asked. We're going to find out what our numbers look like for today. The computer's moving quite slowly this morning. You always got to love when the computer goes slow for you, or maybe it's operator error. You never know. It's one or the other. S&P 500 is now down 14.83. The 10-year Treasury is down 1 basis point. Mortgage-backed securities are down 1 basis point. As I mentioned to you before, none of it really matters, simply because we're just on hold waiting for CPI and what the Federal Reserve has to say. Key numbers to watch in tomorrow's CPI report. Okay, if you're thinking about locking a loan, what is locking? I guess. Well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. Let's get into these numbers. What's driving them? So the May CPI reading is expected to be 0.3%, which would not make for much improvement on the year-over-year inflation reading. Some estimates are looking for it to remain at 3.6%, while others believe it could improve slightly to 3.5%. The two biggest components to look out for: shelter and motor vehicle insurance. If you remove these, year-over-year inflation is only increasing by 0.27%. Hello, Federal Reserve. So almost all the inflation is coming from those two areas. Shelter measures rent price increases and owner's equivalent rent, not home prices. Owner's equivalent rent measures how much you could rent a home for that you own, but it typically tracks extremely close to the rent increases. Shelter makes up 45% of the core inflation reading and is the biggest single component. The May 2023 shelter reading that will fall off at an annual calculation tomorrow is 0.54%. Pretty high replacement figure. Recent shelter numbers we've been seeing have been around 0.4%, but have started to moderate slowly in the last few months. If we see this finally start to catch up, or at least moderate further, we could see a little help from this area. Funny part of that is owner's equivalent rent. More often than not, most owners of homes don't know what their equivalent rent would be. So, and that's part of the largest number of the CPI report. Motor vehicle insurance only makes up 3.6% of core inflation because it's gone up 23%. 23% year over year. Ow! Yeah. If you've gotten an auto insurance renewal, you know the pain that is there. It's adding about 25% of the year over year inflation we have been seeing. The replacement figure from last year will be falling off, is a high 1.9%. If we see a number come in below that, we could see some help from this component as well. Bottom line, don't think tomorrow's CPI will hurt us. And if anything, there are reasons to believe it could come in beneath expectations. NFIB, Small Business Optimism Index, rose to 90.5 from 89.7 and remains near the lowest levels we have seen in over 10 years. Because small businesses are not as optimistic as they had been. Chief economist at NFIB expressed the pessimism among small business owners and said, for 29 consecutive months, small business owners have expressed historically low optimism, and their views about future business conditions are at the worst levels seen in 50 years. The job component with the NFIB report is near the lowest levels in 8 years when removing COVID and is another sign that the BLS is overstating small business job growth. Does that surprise? Surprise. Doesn't surprise anybody. Last Friday's report showed that through the birth-death model that they used, there were 231,000 job creations, mostly in small business, but ADP showed 10,000 jobs lost in the category. BLS clearly has a problem with their headline figures, but that's part of the headlines. We have no choice. That is the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990.